Well, yesterday we managed to pick up a famous win over Real Madrid despite being 10 men for about half of that game. We picked it up with a loss to Cologne in the Bundesliga, but today we're going to focus more on the Champions League, hopefully put our foot down to make sure we qualify for the knockout stages. We're away at Monaco and then back at home to take on Hellas Verona. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 77 of Rookie to Royalty here on Shaun Does FM with Jahn Regensburg. I hope you're doing well and coming up today a little bit of a Champions League focus in November of 2031. We take on Monaco away from home, which on paper, at least in terms of league position, looks like it should be a little bit of an easy game before we go home and take on Hellas Verona, who of course in the end had their manager pinched off them for the Real Sociedad job after we turned that down going to the start of this season. So for you guys are looking forward to that Champions League focus coming up in today's episode. But as I said during the brief intro, it comes off the back of a huge win over Real Madrid in yesterday's episode. If you missed that one as well, as the loss off the back of that to Cologne in the Bundesliga. I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Since then, played one game in the DFB Pokal and one game in the Bundesliga. Thankfully, have picked up wins in both those games. The rotation, they're doing a great job against Heidenheim, Kamara, Rivera, Muller and Perisic there with the goals as we pick up a 4-0 win. Unfortunately, we did lose Rivera in that game though, and it is quite serious, a real bummer too, because he was just starting to develop into our first choice striker a bit quicker than I thought he would. 7 goals in 7 games, and that's just in league for us so far, but he's out. That is with a twisted ankle for 2 to 5 weeks. So unfortunately, quite light all of a sudden at striker. We've thankfully still got Rene Muller, but Sandro Veloso is now the backup while Rivera is out with that injury. So there's definitely a blow in that cup game, which was unfortunate. And then we were pretty poor when we took on Hamburg, but somehow a late goal to Ruslan did mean we walked away with a 1-0 win. I say poor, it wasn't actually that bad. Just took us a long time here to actually pick up the goal. Even before then, quite a few yellow cards off the back of yesterday's episode. A bit concerning, the cards we're picking up here at Jahn Regensburg. Usually though, they're not red, which is pretty good, but thankfully just do enough there eventually to pick up a 1-0 win when switching to the 4-3-3 late. So it does mean that we do sit in 4th on the Bundesliga table off the back of that narrow win as well as that loss to Cologne second up in yesterday's episode. These days 4 points behind those guys, and Gladbach and Bayern are also ahead of us. So unfortunately just dropped down that table a little bit in those last couple of games that we've played. Fingers crossed in between these Champions League ones today, we can keep ourselves up there inside of the top 4. But our main focus today is going to be the Champions League, trying to capitalise on that win we did pick up unexpectedly with the 10 men against Real Madrid. Here's the table. We're currently sitting in a pretty good spot, pretty close to smack bang middle there of the teams that qualify for that first knockout playoff round. Hopefully, might be able to do enough here to sneak in to the top 8, because I think there are 2 games that could be relatively winnable, especially the way that Monaco are going. They are just above Celtic in bottom spots, really, based on Champions League form. This is a team that hopefully we can handle, albeit much like Real Madrid, going a lot better in their domestic league. They sit 3rd there in league on 6 points off PSG, as you'd expect to be fair, but they've only lost 2 games, not going too badly at all. But in the Champions League, they are going absolute rubbish. Let's just check here and see what's been going on with these guys in the Champions League. To be fair, their first 2 games, quite tough. Eintracht Frankfurt, of course, we lost to a couple of episodes ago, and then Arsenal, they lost 3-0 away from home. Benfica, that's one that maybe they'd be disappointed with, but Benfica in the save aren't a bad team either. So be fair, so far, they've had some tough games. Their draw actually looks pretty brutal when you get past us, Juventus, Real Madrid, Galatasaray and Lille. Those last couple of games maybe might be some. They're a bit more winnable for Monaco, but off the back of that start, they'll definitely need a win here if they want to keep their qualification hopes alive. So Monaco here have a lot to play for in front of their home fans. Their manager does like a 4-2-3-1. Of course, we don't have Jimenez for this game off the back of that red card that he picked up in yesterday's episode. And also Ballerini has just come back from a minor injury, and adding into that, of course, that injury to Rivera. So it does mean that we're a little bit different here for this first game of today's episode. But seeing as Monaco are a bit out of form, hopefully it might pay off. Wing back in particular, the area that we're changing here. We've got Vargas at right back, our only fit one, who's not suspended. And also Henning comes in there over Uwe Dawn, also coming back from a recent injury as well. So a couple of changes there to our wing backs, and also going with the 4-3-3, seeing as this is what our analyst does recommend here for this first game. In today's episode, you'll see it there, the clear-cut chances. 4-3-3 does a lot better apparently than the 4-2-3-1 against this Monaco team. So fingers crossed that's a good move, because we did pretty well yesterday with that 4-2-3-1, albeit it was almost a 4-2-2-1 considering the red card that we did cop when we picked up that 2-1 win over Real Madrid. So let's hope we can do something similar here, even though we have changed our formation, especially away from home. That's the only reason really that this could be a potential banana skin for us here against the team from over in League O. But we'll see if we can get the job done here in our green uniform. No doubt Monaco will be wearing colours that are quite similar to what we usually wear, the white with a bit of red involved there for the home team. But hopefully, despite those changes at wing-back, we can do something decent here. Here's the Monaco team. They are indeed going with a 4-2-3-1. Benzaguer in central attacking midfielder, definitely a good player in this save, just like he was back in our RB Klopp save, one of the better ones. I think he was on that last list, the goal 50 in this save. But our team's our best 11 with Muller up top, seeing as Rivera is out injured, and also with those changes at wing back. So fingers crossed here can pick up a result away from home. That would be quite a decent start, considering a lot of our back half games are back at the Jahn Regensburg, or wherever they might be. Not too sure actually if we're playing all our games at our home stadium, considering that wasn't happening in the Conference League last season. Our stadium is in the process of getting expansion here at Jahn Regensburg, so hopefully we might still be able to pick up some decent results here at home like we did against Real Madrid in yesterday's episode. And hopefully as well, there'll be no red cards, because away from home, that could be a little bit tricky. But so far, we've been picking up a couple of yellows in this game, Cuervo as well as Jimenez. That's not too ideal, two players who really we don't want to ease off tackles in the roles that they are playing. But Monaco here are on the attack from this first highlight. Mawisa here starts to make his way forward somehow. Drinker there in some space down the left-hand side. Vargas looked like he might have won that ball, didn't quite do it, and they square it, and they make it 1-0 there and do take a lead. So unfortunately, it took a wee while there for the first highlight. Vargas does just bite inside there. Fully recovered well there with a touch, but unfortunately a Dringer did square that one, and Balogun's there to bundle that one home. So unfortunately we can see there from the first highlight of this game, albeit now we are down the other end. I think Ruslan there tries to put that one into the top right corner, but a glancing header, it just kisses the crossbar. So unfortunately we are still 1-0 down, and now it's a free kick here to Monaco. We'll just see if going balanced might cancel it out. Unfortunately, still see the free kick here to Benzaguer. Batata was not too interested, and thankfully, somewhat justifiably, that one does go over the crossbar. So we're still 1-0 down and not looking too hot so far. But here we are on the attack. Lewis Walden plays that one back to Lucchini, and now Vargas will find Walden. But that is a pretty loose touch, so it does mean that Monaco here can get back on the ball. Lovely footwork there from Benzaguer. Looked like a little bit there of an accident, but it might have paid off, as now they find there down their right-hand side a man with a very long name. Now Diaz back on the ball. Acuna tries to curve that one top left corner. It comes off the underside of the crossbar, and thankfully Batata, he can claim that one. So far it's fair to say Monaco are the team who are looking a lot more threatening, but now Henning will try and put that one into the top left corner, but takes on the shot there, and the goalkeeper and Arnautinez can read that one pretty well. So starting to get a few more shots off now in this game. We've caught up in terms of shots and actually somehow have one more shot on target, but still a goal down. Let's hope that maybe we can do something from this highlight here before halftime. We find some space here down our right-hand side. Vargas will pick out Lewis Walden, takes on the shot there from a very tight angle, but thankfully Tinas can't save that one, and we make it 1-1. So a little bit lucky based on the highlights that we've been seeing, but we do equalise here just before halftime. Nice work here from Vargas to pick out Walden, who just gets in behind there. That Monaco defence, not too sure there about the effort from Tinas. Honestly, don't know if he should be getting beaten from that angle, but thankfully we level this one up just before halftime, and indeed that will be the scoreline. Also allows us here to make some changes for those players who are sitting on yellow cards. We'll take off Cuervo. That will be for Masterson, a bit more natural in that stopper role based on his attributes. Also, Henning's going poorly on a 6.4, so Dawn will come on there at left back despite not quite being on a full green hand. La Rosa or Quim Jimenez Singh as he sits on a yellow card, and players named Jimenez I don't trust with their cards off the back of that Real Madrid game in yesterday's episode. But thankfully, we've found a way there to just get this one level before halftime. Let's hope now that maybe we can take some of that momentum into the second half. To be fair, that might come at a bad time for us. But let's see here what does happen during the course of the second half. Stats-wise, a pretty even game at Monaco with a much higher XG, despite the fact that shots-wise, they've only had one more than us. So to be fair, that's a little bit concerning as now Edgar Vargas picks up a yellow card. We do have Spallerini on the bench, but he is on a pretty deep yellow heart. But I think at this point, might need to pull the trigger as we make our way into the last half hour of this game. So we'll see if Ballerini can do a decent job there at right back, despite still being a little bit tired, coming back from a little injury that he picked up recently. And also Fernandez now picks up a yellow card. So I think here, going to use our final sub. Alanis will come on here at left wing so far. The 4-3-3, it's not going badly, but I think it's fair to say also not going quite as well as the 4-2-3-1 did in that Real Madrid game, even with only 10 men now. Corner to Monaco, thankfully, we somehow clear that one away, albeit they do get the ball back here inside the box. And somehow, Adringa can put that one away with about 10 bodies in front of him. That might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but seriously, how has he put that one away and our defenders' legs just became invisible? They make it 2-1. That feels very cheesy, and we've gone down. Might be a little bit here of pausing coming up, a bit of spacebar meshing, as you'll see shortly, because, yeah, all the bodies in the way, I'm not really sure how it's not even deflected off one of those defenders. There's a bunch of them there not doing their job. We could dump them their pay for that, because seriously, it's your one job to defend in this team, and you've not done it there. So unfortunately, we go 2-1 down. We'll be right off the back of that, because I'm filthy at the way that we've conceded that goal. To be fair, Monaco now, stats-wise, well and truly on top of us in this game. So because of that, with 15 minutes left, we will go to a higher tempo version of this 4-3-3, but a bit filthy with how we've conceded that goal there. Of course, it did come 69 minutes in, not so nice this time around, and now there's a throw to Monaco. Thankfully, must have come from something that we did, because they gave the ball back, albeit we give it straight back to them now. Belligan inside the box, Masterson there with a tackle. Thankfully, it's not a penalty. They put this one back into the box, and La Rosa here's that one away, and a nice chance here for Jorquera to get something going on the counter-attack. So hopefully he can find a way to make this 2-2, and maybe take a point from this game at the very least. Some nice passing. Lewis Walden tries to get a shot off. It does get blocked, and now Monaco try and get on the counter-attack. Nice foul that from La Rosa, but we are still 2-1 down stats-wise. Definitely improving off the back of going to that higher tempo, but now I think here we need to go even more attacking with only 5 minutes left. So we're going to change our roles here and make them a bit more positive, and also we'll go to a full-out high tempo, be more expressive, go wider, and also get Batada to distribute quickly. To be fair, should have done that earlier probably, and also we'll go attacking. He having a bit of a shocker on a 6.3, now a 6.2, and also Ruslan wasn't going too well there for a little bit. We're making our way quite quickly through the 5 minutes here of added time, and it's our second defeat in the Champions League this season so far, a 2-win and a 2-loss record. As I said, a potential banana skin, and unfortunately, that's how it's turned out. There's some poor defence in both the goals that we did concede through Belligan and then through Adringa. That second goal in particular, not too sure what our defence was doing off the back there of an equaliser just before half-time, which Lewis Walden put away. To be fair, that goal also a little bit lucky. Monaco's defence during their goalkeeping was not too good. So overall, that result is probably justified. Not too good their away against a decent League On team, but pretty filthy with that last goal. Really should not have been conceded. And off the back of that, we drop down into 17th, one spot below the team that will come back and take on off the back of a couple of Bundesliga games as well as an international break, as we'll be hosting Hellas Verona. So unfortunately, a bit of a poor result for us there first up in today's episode, giving Monaco their first win of the Champions League. Now, either side of the international break since then, we've played some Bundesliga games for the break. Honestly, we're really poor here away against Wolfsburg, but somehow came away with a 1-0 win thanks to an early own goal there. Stats-wise, yeah, not too sure how we won this game. So it's now a couple of times this Bundesliga season where we've somehow found a way to pick up wins quite similar to Dortmund in our first game of this season. That's also especially harsh because off the back of that, the Wolfsburg manager, he got the sack. So to be fair, an own goal has just cost the Wolfsburg manager their job. But thankfully, seeing as those guys are in the bottom half of the table, we do pick up there a 1-0 win. We definitely had some good spells, but Wolfsburg, with a much higher XG, thankfully just find a way there to pick up a 1-0 win. And then we came back from the international break in much better form, albeit against the team struggling even more in Werder Bremen. I'm pretty sure they came up from the 2 Bundesliga at the end of last season, but here got off to an absolute flyer. Fabian Fernandes with a quick fire double, his first couple of goals of this new season, and Rene Müller with one to put it away there just before the 69-minute mark. So a lot better there off the back of the international break at home when we took on Werder Bremen. It does mean 6 points from 6 since your last here. Not too much change in that Bundesliga table. We've just gone above Cologne into third, but already bit of a gap back to the likes of Bayer Leverkusen, Leipzig and Union Berlin. A 7-point gap, so hopefully that's something we can maintain for the rest of our season here at Jahn Regensburg and try and make sure we'll again have some Champions League football for next season. And also still Borussia Dortmund are down near the relegation zone, not quite as bad as it was at one stage during yesterday's episode, but those guys are struggling big time, not too sure how much longer their manager will be able to keep hold of his job with that big bald head. He might be the Norwegian version of Pep Guardiola a little bit there, of a bald fraud, albeit as I say, that is Bayern, who are up near the top, and Pep's there these days, albeit they are behind Gladbach, who do sit on top of that Bundesliga table. We come back now for quite an important game in the Champions League. Hellas Verona. Now this game's a little bit interesting. Their manager left them for Real Sociedad, and so far that's looking like a little bit of a mistake. If we go back to the Champions League table, Hellas Verona are doing a little bit better than Real Sociedad are, because Real Sociedad are down there on only 4 points, just inside of one of those knockout playoff round spots. To be fair, doing better than Real Madrid with a game in hand, and Hellas Verona are up in 17th. We've dropped down somehow to 20th off the back of that loss there to Monaco, so really do need a win here, because our last couple of games in the Champions League phase are Arsenal, Atletico Madrid. Our next two, Hellas Verona and Sporting. So really, with these two being at home, need to pick up some wins. But off the back of losing their manager to Real Sociedad, I was kind of hoping this one might be one of the ones that we could bank on. It's Fabio Cannavaro now who is in charge there at Hellas Verona. Expected to finish 10th over there in Serie A, actually overdoing expectations just a little bit, albeit for a Champions League club. It's not too unexpected that they do sit in 7th spot. So we'll see here what this club is all about. Definitely an interesting one off the back of that Real Sociedad move that their manager did end up making and getting a ridiculous pay rise, unlike what we would have gotten. But thankfully got a few players back here for this game. We are going back to our 4-2-3-1, seeing as that's what analyst does recommend for this game, and it kind of makes sense to off the back of that when we picked up yesterday against Real Madrid. Fingers crossed this time, no red cards, and quite hopeful here for a result at home. And with our best 11 starting, and also a bit of a stronger bench coming back, Alex Jimenez, and also we've got Luis Rivera on the bench. He's still sitting on a little bit of an orange injury, but apparently he can handle about 45 minutes of game time if we really need him to. To be fair, he's probably quite a bit better than someone like Sandro Veloso as one of our bench options if Rene Müller is not performing. So fingers crossed, maybe we can use him late on in this game and it won't prove too costly. If it does, that's going to be a big issue, and I would have stuffed up big time. But definitely a stronger team we put out for this game than we did for that trip away to Monaco, where things backfired. Our defence, for some reason, decided to stop doing their jobs. Hellas Verona are going with the exact same formation. It's a decent looking team, but a little bit surprised that's a team that has been qualifying for the Champions League over in Serie A. To be fair, there's been a couple of clubs underperforming in that league. At Atlanta last season, of course, we beat them in the Conference League and did so quite comfortably. So I suppose with that in mind, it kind of makes sense. But hopefully with this one being played here in front of our home fans, he says somewhat doubtfully considering the situation with our European games last season, we can get a result here back in Germany. So far on the front foot here inside of the first 10 minutes, but as long as we keep 11 players on the field, you'd like to think here that we'll be okay, considering that we beat Real Madrid with only 10 men so far. We've been able to do that, as we've got a highlight here, just keeping the ball from a free kick. Eventually played out to Dawn there, down our left-hand side, squeeze it nicely to Fabian Fernandes. He's come back from the international break in wonderful goal-scoring form. No goals before that little break that we did have, but now he's got 3 in 2 games and makes it 1-0. So thankfully off here to a hot start against Hellas Verona. That shot did take a big deflection. Must have been off a Verona player. Almost looked like there it might have come from one of his teammates. We make it 1-0, albeit now we are down the other end here for a free kick. And a good chance actually here on the counter. We find Miller there in a little bit of space, but unfortunately he took on the shot there. A deflection, takes it just wide of the post and out for a corner. But so far, quite encouraging in the first 15 minutes of this game. Unfortunately, that corner not up to too much, but early on here, well and truly on the front foot. There's nothing so far Hellas Verona have been doing. Just over 20 minutes into this game, Lucchini there with a tackle from behind. Not as bad as we saw yesterday from Alex Jimenez, but yet again, we cop a red card at home in a Champions League game. Now, to play things safe here, sort of, Alex Jimenez will come on for Ballerini on that yellow card, and we'll just leave things as they were. Exactly the same as yesterday, just not play without a central attacking midfielder, but that now makes this a bit tough. But yesterday, we got the job done as Hellas Verona there. Do get a shot off, thankfully, just able to clear that one away out there for a throw in this highlight. It does continue. Hellas Verona are on the attack. Fingers crossed here. We can hold on. Thankfully, Victor just puts that one wide, but that was such a good start for us in this game. We've now given Hellas Verona a potential path back into this one. If we lose, that could put us in a real bit of trouble trying to qualify out of the Champions League phase. A good chance there for Muller to make it 2-0. Blast that one over the top there on the volley. But to be fair, just like yesterday, still creating chances, even when down to 10 men without that central attacking midfielder. It does feel like maybe, considering that we're able to do so well when down to 10 men with this formation, maybe we should change that role and make it a bit more important, albeit it is quite nice to actually be able to play well even when down to 10 men. Dawn tries to put that one there in the top right corner, a decent save from the Hellas Verona goalkeeper, but that does see us move back up to 14th for now. A quite nice spot, can't quite pick out Ruslan there from that set piece. Fernandez floats that one far post there for away Dawn, but his header, that one goes well over the bar, but definitely still creating chances off the back of that red card, which is quite nice. Definitely a bit concerning now that I think about it, how good we are without our advanced playmaker in the system, but it seems to be working. But maybe we do need to change that role. A good chance there for Ruslan again from that corner. Unfortunately, the Hellas Verona goalkeeper, I think, there came up with a big save, either that or it came off the woodwork. It's actually getting quite a few chances here to try and put these guys away a little bit before the break and grab a cushion, which might be well needed, and make it 2-0. Of course, that was quite big when we took on Real Madrid in the same situation in yesterday's episode, but thankfully we go into half-time still holding a 1-0 lead here with only 10 men. We'll see if we can pick up home wins in the Champions League back-to-back, despite the fact that we seem to love red cards at the moment in these games. Unfortunately, Hellas Verona here on the attack early, but Batata comes up there with a really good save. He's going quite well here in this game of 7.2. I think it is a lot better than he did at Monaco. Thankfully, deal with the danger there from that corner, and just doing enough here to hang on and keep a clean sheet. But now a free kick here deep inside of our own half. Fingers crossed here. No silly passes as we try and make our way out from back. Hawkera plays that forward to Fernandez. Actually here looking quite dangerous. Uwe Dawn starts to make his way forward there down that left-hand side. A giveaway. Fernandez on the attack. Potentially could look to square that for Muller. Not too sure if he's straight offside, but straight at the goalkeeper. It's still 1-0. A couple of chances now for us actually to have made this 2, and we've blown them. But Uwe Dawn picks up a yellow card. He is playing well, but already down to 10 men. Will play things safe. So Henning can come on for him here with about 35 minutes left in this game. We're still the team on the front foot in terms of overall stats, but definitely Hellas Verona have been getting closer off the back of that red card that Lucchini did pick up. To be fair, as I said, that's actually the position that we kind of wanted that to be the situation with. But now we're going into our final stoppage. Fernandez, the goal scorer, drops down to a red heart. We'll take him off here for Alanese just to play things safe. Lewis Walden on a 6.7, going a little bit fairly compared to most other players in our squad. So Nulazar can come on for him. And of the rest, we could take off a midfielder, but to be fair, Hawkera is quite important, I feel like, as is Jimenez. Maybe we take off Rene Muller. It could be a bad idea, but it's our final stoppage, so it won't make too much difference. Let's see if Rivera can pop up with a goal on his return from that big injury he suffered in that cup game. So let's hope that doesn't backfire and we go down to 9 men. In hindsight, that might be really stupid what we've just done, but to be fair, shows what our players have done in the last couple of Champions League games that we've played here in front of our home fans. But thankfully, we're finding a way here to hold on with this 4-2-2-1. Poor pass there, though, from Cuervo and Hellas Verona. They are on the attack. Gomez will square that one nicely for their striker, Invicta, but thankfully, he's kind of useless, a bit Darwin Núñez-like, and puts that one wide. But off the back of that, maybe a good time now with only 15 minutes left to start time wasting just a little bit. But that was a huge chance for Hellas Verona to find themselves back level in this game. Thankfully, they're blowing their chances just like we have off the back of that red card. So thankfully, taking on a team here who don't look too confident away from home in the Champions League. And now, with only 5 minutes left in this game, we'll lower our tempo, time waste even more, and be more disciplined. Those things we previously hit on with this tactic back before we changed them last season, and actually started to play quite well. And also, let's actually change some player roles here and go a bit more defensive with this one-man disadvantage. Now we are quite late in this game, but to be fair, it's going pretty well. Won't drag Jimenez back going asymmetrical might not be the best idea, but thankfully, holding on here to our 1-0 lead, we make our way into 5 minutes of added time. A late highlight. Hopefully, Lazar takes his time here on this corner, but to be fair, it is us who have the ball. Let's hope here nothing too silly happens from this set piece. He picks out Ruslan at the near post. It gets saved, but then it finds its way to Cuervo at the far post. He puts it home, and somehow, in back-to-back Champions League games at home, we're going to cop a first-half red card and still pick up wins. Seriously, might need to investigate that advanced playmaker role, because obviously we're not missing it too much. We do fine without it. So thankfully, going to pick up here some much needed points in the Champions League despite that. So the red card from Lucchini in the first half, only 22 minutes in, so a lot earlier than it happened in that Real Madrid game. But thankfully, before then, Fabian Fernandes did give us a 1-0 lead. We hung on. It did feel like, though, we were still on the front foot off the back of that red card for the most part. Hellas Verona had one massive chance there through Gomez. Thankfully, he put it wide, and just as we made our way into injury time, Cuervo puts that one away to make sure that we do pick up a 2-0 win. So somehow, we're looking quite good here in the Champions League at home, even when we cop red cards. Fingers crossed that won't happen too much more in the remainder of the season. Of a right go there at Lucchini, the second player now, back-to-back games in the Champions League where we have copped red cards. Definitely that is a little bit of an issue, as Jimenez apparently has also picked up quite a few yellow cards this season, so maybe that might be another suspension which is coming up soon. But thankfully, a much-needed win, and that gives us a bit of breathing room inside one of those first knockout playoff round qualifying spots. So that's a big win there over Hellas Verona. We get the job done despite again going down to 10 men, a 2-0 win. So we've somehow found a way to pick up another win with only 10 men in a Champions League game here at Jahn Regensburg. Not too sure how we're playing better here currently with 10 men in these Champions League games than we are with 11 men, as you saw with those losses against Eintracht Frankfurt as well as Monaco. But thankfully, getting the job done quite well here at home, and it does mean we sit pretty solid mid-table inside of a knockout qualifying playoff round spot. Real Madrid are still down there just outside, also above Bayern Munich, which is a little bit of a surprise. So yeah, that Champions League table, a little bit weird looking, but thankfully we sit now in a pretty nice spot. As long as we can beat Sporting, that might be enough for us to make sure we'll be playing some part in the knockouts of the Champions League this season. But I think that will do it for today's episode. Definitely interesting, that second game with another bloomin' red card, but a win, and also that loss away at Monaco, but thankfully made up for that there with that win over Hellas Verona. If you enjoyed that episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. What we come back for in tomorrow's episode, we won't come back for Stuttgart away because they're not very good, and Werder Bremen did beat them comfortably before Hellas Verona, and that's a cup game. But then we've got Bayern Munich in the Bundesliga. That could be quite a big game. It's currently second versus third, so definitely going to come back for that one. And Sporting, that's probably our last big winnable game in the league phase of the Champions League. If we can beat those guys, maybe those last couple of games won't be quite so important off the back of our win to break. So I think we'll come back tomorrow and take on Bayern as well as Sporting, a big double here there in the Bundesliga and the Champions League. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.